the aftermath. Because when you moved on from the first church to the second church because your gifts weren't being, what I heard was you moved on partially because your gifts weren't being used.
Yeah.
And the amazing part about that is you had to be aware enough of yourself to realize what your gifts were. And that's, the interesting part is that anybody who's going through a dark time right now, like I have, like Paul has, you have to understand and start looking for your gifts, because that's where your true happiness is going to come from, when you can use your gifts to their fullest extent, right, Paul?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm an assessment junkie, so I've taken Myers-Briggs and the DISC and the personalities and the Strength Finder, and so that was sort of a natural for me to just go deep inside, introspectively. And more of an introvert than an extrovert. Be more self-reflective to really come up with a composite of who I really am at my best.
Oh, that's a great piece of advice for anybody watching this. When you're going through the turning point and just starting your aftermath, go through and figure out, what you're best at, and what really makes you you. I mean, I know I've done strengths finders and standout and Myers-Briggs and a number of them, and sometimes the results shock you. Other times they make perfect sense and it gives you the validation. So you've moved on, you're dating somebody, you moved into another church, into another position, and you're starting to become the success that you are today. Are you still? I know you have your own business. Are you still doing anything? Like, are you still an meaning with that church? Are you still an executive pastor, an advisor, anything, or did you eventually move on from them?
I stayed with that church for 6.5 years. I just resigned last December um, because I had launched this business simultaneously. I've read those books, talk about your day job and your dream job, right? So while I had a day job, I was developing my dream job. I was still trying to make a difference in both, but I knew I couldn't just up and quit. I had to make sure that it was actually a viable job that could keep going. So I resigned last year and launched this business full-time in January. I still do 8 hours of work for my new church that I'm at, but primarily I'm doing this full-time.
Epic. So you did what a smart person does, not a dumb person like me, but no, you do what a smart person does, which is you kept your day job while building your tomorrow, your future. A lot of people talk about today money and tomorrow money, and when you don't plan for today money by keeping a job or by getting a job, sometimes it makes things difficult. So you also sounds like you had an opportunity to hone and utilize and really come up with not only skills, but tips, tools, techniques, and other instruments that you use with clients today during that 6.5 period where you were, I'll even call beta testing. I'm sure you probably went through some things that worked, some things that didn't, and it helped you in building the successful business you have today, right?
Yeah, yeah. So I've been speaking for 20 years, ever since my first year of teaching. I really love speaking. That's a lot of fun to me, to give content out and make it real practical for people. I remember my first conference I went to, and they said I went through the whole day, 2 days, and I didn't get anything out of the whole conference because everybody stayed philosophical. So I'm not a philosophical speaker. I'm super practical, like tools and tips that you can use today or tomorrow. So along that line, I was starting to get more speaking gigs. Also, then I actually launched the business 2011 around Christmas. Another dark time had happened, another turning point happened, and people were calling me saying, "Do you do that coaching thing?" And I'm like, "I can." And so I had my first clients right around Christmas of 2011, and I realized I was getting paid and I didn't have a business license. And I'm like, uh-oh, I can't even cash this check to Growing Forward Services because I don't even have a real entity. So I had to get an LLC and a website and a tax ID number. And so that was the thing that just sort of pushed me into launching the business around Christmas of 11, was realizing I can't cash a check unless I've got a business.
Well, and I find it interesting. You were in a situation that a lot of people would love to be in, which is people were beating down your door for your services. However, what I believe from the outside happened is you had done great things for people in the past that they remembered. Whether you charged them for it or whether you didn't, whether it was part of the church or whether it wasn't, you had made a difference in their lives and you'd interacted with them in some point and they thought of you when they had an issue that they needed coaching on or when they had some help. Is that a fair thing to say on why they came to you?
Chris, I've never actually thought of it. That was very insightful because that is true. Though these were people in the past that were linked to me through either the school or the church, or they knew of me from the community, and they were the ones that came calling. So, I never really thought about that, but that's true. There was some kind of link from the past that came to the present, and they became my first coaching clients.
Yeah, and it's interesting because that's what a lot of people miss. A lot of people have great ideas. A lot of people are great speakers. And they go, well, people should be beating down my door. I'm doing this right. I'm doing that right. I feel like I'm doing everything right. And if they haven't made a connection with somebody, whether it's through their content, their videos, their speeches, if they haven't made a connection with somebody, then people aren't going to come and become a client of yours or become, even talk to you about your services and what you do. However, if you have made that connection, if you have helped people, if you have made their life better, if you have made their life easier, then there's at least a better chance of them thinking of you than not thinking of you. Because Paul, I'm quite sure you've made the difference in thousands of people's lives, especially being a principal and being a teacher. And thousands of people haven't beaten down your door, but enough of them did that allowed you to start your business, right?
Yeah, and it's true. People still, my former students are now in their 20s, which makes me feel old, and they'll still say, "Mr. Casey, you were my principal," and so that's heartwarming, to run into those people. But to go back to an earlier question, like what have you changed maybe from that, is those initial clients were not my ideal client. I realized that many of them just wanted to talk. They felt I was a friendly face and a good listener, and they didn't last for a long period of time. A lot of them didn't really want to grow. They wanted a little bit more like a counselor, someone that would really empathize with them and listen. So I learned that wasn't my ideal client, but those were the ones that got me going into the business.
And that's epic. And the thing that I hear from that is that all along the way, you've utilized every experience to learn and grow yourself, which makes you an ideal person to help other people learn and grow themselves, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, and because I think that's what a lot of people, myself included, have missed at times in our life is learning and growing. We look at what's going on and we focus so much about the struggle and the strife and everything else that we're going through that we don't think about and realize what we could learn from it going forward. And I think it's a really good place that we'll wrap up your hero's journey, folks. So far today, you've been watching Paul and learning about Paul's hero's journey. You've learned how somebody who was successful in the school system moved into the religious sector, was successful, had a very dark thing happen to him when his wife divorced him, and has come out of it on the other side because he's always been a learner and a grower. And even though he's out, near Colorado, not that type of grower, he's a personal growth type of person. Um, And that's what makes him such an ideal person to work with you. So we want you all to stick around. We're going to take a 60-second break. And when we come back from the break, we're going to hear all about surefire ways to get your priorities done every day. Paul's going to teach you a little bit about it, and you're going to see exactly why Paul is the right guy to work with you and if you are looking to learn and grow. And remember, stick around till the very end. We've got a special offer for you. So hang with us. We'll be back in 60 seconds or less.
To watch the rest of this epic episode now, click on the link below the video. Do it now, you'll be glad you did. Are you still here? What are you waiting for? Watch the rest of this epic episode now by clicking on the link below the video.